the 2022 International Speech Contest for District 63. And to lead as our contest chair, all the way from, Dory, where do you live?
Smyrna.
Smyrna, all the way from Smyrna, just outside the metropolis of Nashville. Please help me welcome our friend, Dory Noland. Take it, Dory.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Toastmaster International District 63's International Speech Contest. I am excited to be here and to be the contest chair for this contest. I know the hard work that has gone into this, and for everybody, the contestants, the officials, and for our radio host. I would like for all dignitaries to raise their hands, please, their virtual hands, so that we can acknowledge our dignitaries. Round of applause for all of our dignitaries, please, and a big thank you for being here. They can put their hands down now, and thank you. All contestants have confirmed their eligibility in writing. They are all aware of their speaking area, the contest timing, and location of the timing lights. Timer number 1 is in the left-hand corner. They have their hand raised. The speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. They will receive a green card at 5 minutes, a yellow card at 6, and a red at 7. There is no photography permitted during the speech without the prior authorization. Bert Copeland will be recording this, and then we'll be taking to pass the winners and passing that to Region. The contestants have drawn their speaking orders and are as follows. Contestant number 1, Luann Clark. Contestant number 2, Mary Dunn. Contestant number 3, Carlos Calderon. Contestant number 4, Donald King. Contestant number 5, Karen Lankford. During the contest, all microphones will be off. All webcams will be off except for that of the speaker. I will introduce each contestant by announcing their name, their speech title, the speech title, and then their name. I will ask them if they are okay with the camera setting, if they can see the timer. If there are any technical difficulties, the speaker will be given 30 extra seconds, and they will want to start where they left off. For instance, if their webcam goes out and they've just finished the words "they are," when they come back and start, they need to start with "they are" again. That's where they pick up. All webcams off, please. Chief Judge, have the judges been briefed?
Yes, Madam Contest Master, everybody's briefed and everybody's present.
Okay, let the contest begin. Luann, contestant number 1, are you able to see the timer?
I am.
Are you ready?
I am.
Luann Clark. Abracadabra. Abracadabra. Luann Clark.
Mama, I don't want to wear the white scarf to school. Luann, it will keep your ears warm. Hold still so I can tie it. The big kids on the bus said this scarf looks like a diaper. They called me a baby. They said you put my diaper on the wrong end. My mother tied the scarf firmly under my chin and said, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Did your parents ever say some crazy thing like that to you? My mother said it. Then she sent me out to wait for the school bus. And there I stood, out in the cold, a 6-year-old loser, wearing a diaper on my head. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and friends, do you know any magic words? I bet you aren't thinking diaper. Maybe you think of hocus pocus, Shazam, or abracadabra. Did you know abracadabra is not just a nonsense word? It has roots in ancient Aramaic. Translation: as I speak, I create. That's exactly what happened to me with the word diaper. The big kids said it, and I let that word transform me from a happy little first grader into a miserable social outcast. That diaper on my head did have one advantage. It kept my naturally curly hair from going wild in the wind. My hair hasn't always been this well controlled. And over my lifetime, it's earned me some humorous nicknames. It's Poodlehead. Hey, Ms. Frizz. Abracadabra, fuzzball. You'll never be pretty. Labels from others hurt. But have you ever tried to create motivation by slapping a label on yourself? Ever call yourself a name like slacker or slob? Did the label help you change, or did it just reinforce an identity you didn't want? My most damaging words were the ones I whispered to myself over and over. You don't matter. You'll never be good enough. No one will like you if you show them who you really are. What if they find out you still secretly love disco? Those negative words echoed in my head for years. Then, when I was in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with major depression. And I put some new labels on myself. Sick, defective, maybe a hopeless case. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words broke my spirit. The little bit of hope I had left kept me going from one therapist to another for years and years. Then one day, I was sitting in the office of my new counselor, Jim, when he spoke words that changed my world. Luann, I don't think you have major depression. I think any normal person living in your circumstances would feel depressed. Oh, wait a minute. Did he just call me normal? My feelings were normal. Normal. It was the most magical word I had ever heard. Jim helped me to understand the way I speak to myself creates my version of reality. It may seem like magic, but it's what psychologists call explanatory style. I came to see beating yourself up doesn't make you a better person. It just makes you a beaten person. With Jim's help, I learned to speak more kindly to myself. And I chose some new magic words. Creative, capable, cool. It's been 18 years and the depression has never returned. A few years ago, a friend and I were standing out in the wind, and I didn't have a scarf or a diaper to hold down my hair. It was doing its thing, and I complained because it was so unruly. But she said, "I've always loved your hair. It's like there's a party going on your head." That's what she said. But what I heard was abracadabra. Abracadabra. As we speak, we create. What do you want to create? What will you say? The magic isn't just in the words. The magic is in you. Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you, timer. Contestant number 2, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can you see the timer?
I can.
Mary Dunn, at a loss for words, at a loss for words, Mary Dunn.
Have you ever had one of those moments when you didn't know what to say? When you were at a loss for words? Me too. As speakers, words are the building blocks of our craft. As humans, language is what connects us. Sometimes there just aren't words. I recently met with a colleague for coffee, and she told me that her son had been hurt in a soccer game. The injury was minor, but it wasn't getting better. In fact, it was getting worse. We took him to the doctor, and the doctor checked him out and said, "Your son has osteosarcoma." I had to go home and look it up to know that my son has bone cancer, and he's only 9 years old. What do you say to that? There are no words. So I sat in silence, looking into my cup, hanging in the balance between fear and faith, just being there for her. Imagine someone you really care about comes to you and they tell you that they're going to end their failing marriage finally. Maybe your spouse comes to you and asks you for a divorce. You might be stunned or heartbroken, or maybe you're relieved. Do you get on that bashing bandwagon? Maybe you commiserate with them. Maybe you have to bite your tongue. It seems like in those moments, words just take up space. space that's needed to experience what you're feeling, the pain, or maybe to process and to heal. But it's not always tragedy that leaves us speechless. We can be dumbstruck by nature's beauty. I remember that first sunset on that vast expanse of beach in the Gulf of Mexico. What I was seeing and feeling couldn't be contained in mere words. It could be a great work of art, the surreal realism of one of the Dutch masters' paintings, maybe Michelangelo's David, or a great composer's magnum opus. The birth of a baby can leave us speechless. Not because we can't think of what to say, but because words can't convey what we're feeling. Mundane things can leave us at a loss for words. I'm composing a speech, and sometimes the words just flow. Catchy turn of phrase, quips and quotes, a plethora of profundities. And other times, writer's block sets in, and the words just won't come. In those moments, stop trying to force the words. Stop. Sit and listen in the silence. And listen for what comes. It might be an insight, feeling, or emotion. And then act on that. Or just sit with it. And accept that sometimes there just aren't words.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome contestant number 3. Contestant number 3, are you comfortable with your speaking area?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Can you see the timer?
Yes.
Carlos Calderon, I speak to win. I speak to win. Carlos Calderon.
Madam Contest Master, friends, and fellow contestants, today I speak to win. So there I was at the speech contest, and I gave what was obviously a winning speech. When it was time to announce the winner, I won, yes! Actually, they called the name of the guy sitting next to me. He got up, went up front, and they gave him my trophy. Huh? What happened? Then I realized what had happened. The judges had stolen my trophy. Oh, I was so angry, I wanted to call the police. Hello, police. I like to report a robbery. I'm at a speech contest. Okay, I obviously did not call the police because my phone was dead and there were no phone chargers at the scene of the crime, which was very convenient for those criminals known as the judges. But seriously, when I lost that speech contest, I was hurt because I worked very hard on that speech. I spent hours and hours and hours trying to make it a winning speech. And I felt like I had nothing to show for my efforts. And that night, as I slowly sank into the sands of sleep, I wondered, do I speak to win? A year went by, and I met a woman who had been at the speech contest. Her name was Martha. She said, Carlos, that was an amazing speech. I responded, well, the judges didn't agree. She continued, the way you spoke about your grandfather and the importance of family, well, it made me think about my father. Martha explained to me that when she was a girl, her father had been an alcoholic. Because of that, he had been a bad father to her, a terrible husband to her mother. I hated him. I hated him for what he did to us and what he put us through. And for years, he wanted to reconnect, saying he had changed. And I wanted nothing to do with him until I heard your speech. That night, I called him. A few days later, we met. We cried. We laughed. Cried some more. He apologized. And I forgave. Then a few months later, he died of the cancer I didn't know he had. If it had not been for your speech, I would have been trapped in a lifetime of pain and regret. Your speech changed my life. Thank you. Wow. My speech may have changed her life, but her words changed mine. For too long, I thought speaking to win was about a trophy. It's not, because trophies can break. I thought speaking to win was about the applause. It's not, because the applause eventually stops. No, speaking to win is about something that is unbreakable. Speaking to win is about something that is unstoppable. It is about the power of our words and the effect those words can have on those who hear them. For example, when we convince people with our words, we win their minds. When we inspire people with our words, we win their hearts. When our words transform lives and improve them, we are truly speaking to win. Now, I may have lost that speech contest, but I won Martha, her freedom from her pain. Just like Martha won me a better understanding of why I speak. And that is so much bigger than a trophy. So the next time you speak at a family function or work event, or even at a speech contest, say to yourself proudly, today, I speak to win. Because you never know what victories you may bring to your audience. Madam Contest Master.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome contestant number 4. Contestant number 4, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Are you able to see the timer?
Sure can.
Donald King, lessons from my son. Lessons from my son, Donald King.
If you had been with me that day on stage at Thompson Bowling Arena, getting ready to give the commencement speech, you would have been able to look out and see a sea of black gowns. You would have had the taste of Buddy's barbecue maybe lingering on your tongue as you heard the babble of happy families there to celebrate their loved one receiving a college degree. You might have looked out there in that sea of black and seen an empty chair covered with a white drape and a single red rose. And if at that moment you had glanced over at me, you would have seen me studying that chair, lost in thought, because that chair was there in honor of my late son, who was receiving a posthumous degree that night. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and anyone who's ever lost a child, I would like to step out of my role as a professor and into my role as a student to share with you just a few of the lessons that I learned from one of my greatest teachers. His name was Barry Jonathan King, but when he was a child, we called him John John. I remember when he was about 5 years old. He was a chunky kid, and so for Halloween one year, we dressed him up as a pumpkin. Yeah, I know. But it was really cute, and as we went door to door, people would say, "Oh, what a sweet pumpkin, what a sweet pumpkin." And he was hearing all this, of course. When we went to the last door, the lady said, "What a sweet pumpkin. What's your name, son?" And he looked up and said, "My name is John John Sweet Pumpkin King." He knew. Lesson number 1, when you want to connect with people, listen to them and respond. A couple of years later, I was pastoring a church. We took the youth group on a trip to Cumberland Mountain State Park. Went there for a day of playing and picnicking and all that sort of thing. And John loved the swings. He spent the afternoon on the swings. In fact, when it came time to leave, I got everybody else in the van and I shouted, "John, time to go, come on." And he just looked at me and kept swinging. Barry Jonathan King, it is time to go. And he just gave me the stink eye and kept swinging. I thought, I'm going to have to drag this kid into the van. So I decided to move the van closer. The thing is, at Cumberland Mountain State Park, to do that, I needed to drive around a circular parking lot to get closer. He didn't know that's what I was doing. He just knew he saw the van pulling away. In my rearview mirror, I saw him launch out of that swing and come running across the parking lot, chugging as fast as his little legs would take him, shouting, "Don't leave me, Daddy. Don't leave me." It broke my heart. And as I pulled the van up and flung the door open, he leaped in. And I said, "Son, I would never abandon you. I was just circling around to get closer." The change in his face was like the sun coming out from behind a cloud. Lesson number 2, when you feel like you've been abandoned, it's not necessarily the case. There were lots and lots of lessons, more for him, more for me. Life got hard for John. His mother and I divorced, something he didn't understand. Heck, I don't understand it still. He developed brittle diabetes and kidney disease. He did a lot of the stupid stuff we all do as teenagers, but for him, it could literally have been fatal. And so one day I pulled him aside and I had a talk with him. And it went something like this: Jonathan, there are 3 kinds of people in the world. There are people who learn the easy way. There are people who learn the hard way. And there are people who don't freaking learn. You've already demonstrated you're not the first kind. It remains to be seen which of the other 2 you are. Bonus lesson: learn somehow, but learn. I'm pleased to say that he did learn, although in a lot of ways it was too late. He turned his life around. He went to college. He was pursuing a degree. He was getting his health under check, was on a transplant list. But then he wound up at the hospital 4 years ago with the flu. We were all sick that week. I didn't go see him because we were sick. One morning early, about 7 o'clock, the phone rang. On the caller ID, I could see it was him. By that time, he was going by Barry. I let Barry's phone call go to voicemail. A few minutes later, it rang again. I answered the phone. Barry, what are you doing calling so early? We're sick too. But it wasn't Barry. It was a nurse. Mr. King, I'm afraid I have some bad news. My John, sweet pumpkin, had left me behind. You know, people always say nice things at funerals. But what struck me at his memorial service was the specificity of the stories that people told me about the difference he made in their life. There was the young lady who said he was her first boyfriend. Her parents wouldn't let her date until they talked to him, and his character impressed them so much that they relented. There was the homeless guy that he snuck into his mama's basement so she wouldn't find out. Fed that guy and gave him a place to sleep. The friend that he got a job at Taco Bell where he worked that he said changed his life. Lesson number 3, live in such a way that you make an impact on other people's lives. In fact, here's your final exam. When you leave this event, I want you to pick up the phone and call somebody to tell them about the impact they have made on you. I didn't get that chance. And so when I graduate from this life, son, I hope you will circle back around for me. Madam Contest Chair.
Contestant number 5, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Can you see the timer?
Yes, I can.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Karen Lankford. Karen Lankford, why me laud? Why me laud? Karen Lankford.
Why me, Lord? Why are all these bad things always happening to me? Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm sure many of us have asked these very same questions at some point in our lives. I know I have, probably more times than I care to admit. It reminds me of a Ziggy cartoon I saw in the newspapers back in the late 70s. The first frame showed the characters of Ziggy looking up into the sky asking, why me? The next frame showed words coming down out of the sky asking, why not? My friends, life is not a respecter of persons. It happens to all of us. We're born, we live, we die, and then we have everything in between. We also don't always know why anything happens to us, and sometimes we just have to wait until we get to the hindsight part of life before we can look back and have those aha moments. For instance, have you ever wanted something so badly, but for whatever reasons you didn't get it and you were absolutely devastated? Then later on down the road, you find that an even better opportunity became available for you. When I was young, I always thought I'd get married and have a dozen children. For whatever reasons, never happened. But if I had gotten married and had all those children, I would have missed out on so many other opportunities that came my way. A few examples are, I lived on an Indian reservation in British Columbia, worked on a horse ranch outside of Las Vegas, pursued an acting career in both Hollywood and Nashville, achieved my black belt in the martial arts, became a writer, a speaker, a Toastmaster. And in recent years, I was able to help take care of my parents when their health got so bad. My mom passed away a few years ago, and now I'm able to help take care of my 91-year-old dad full time. And then we have those really horrible experiences where we don't think we're going to make it through. Yet when we look back, we find that so much good came from them. In 1997, I had a total breakdown where I didn't think I was going to make it. It took a couple of years and a lot of hard work, but I was finally able to get through it. Looking back in hindsight, I found that the breakdown was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I learned to have so much more love, compassion, and understanding, not only for myself, but for others as well. So I'd like to share with you just 3 of the many lessons I learned that really helped me to turn my life around. The first is I learned about the power of our thoughts. Are we thinking positively and looking for the good? Or are we thinking negatively and always expecting the bad? There's a saying that says, change your thoughts, change your life. And this is so true. Obviously, we're still going to have negative thoughts, and that's perfectly okay. But the question is, which thoughts do you want to dominate your mind? Number 2, learn to have an attitude of gratitude. Count your blessings, no matter how small those blessings may seem. In fact, I would highly recommend that you get a pad of paper and a pen and you start writing them all down. You can begin with, were you even able to get out of bed this morning? Can you see, hear, walk, talk? Do you have a roof over your head, a warm bed to sleep in, clothes to wear, food to eat? Are you surrounded by loved ones? Start with the very basics and build from there. By the time you're done writing them all down, you should have writer's cramp. And then say thank you and say it often. And 3, I learned how important it is to have love and compassion for ourselves. At one time, I used to hate myself with a passion. I couldn't even stand to look in the mirror without saying the most horrific things to myself. Anytime I saw my reflection in anything, I would say, you fat, ugly, bleeping son of a bleep. I couldn't even wake up in the morning without the first 2 words popping into my mind being, oh, bleep, as if waking up were a huge disappointment. I knew I had a lot of work to do, so I came up with a couple techniques that I used on myself. The first is every night when I went to bed, I would start at the top of my head and I would say, I love you, forehead. I love you, eyes. I love you, nose. I love you, mouth. And I'd go all the way down to the tips of my toes. I even tell my little fat self critters that I love them. I also knew that I needed to change what I said to myself in the mirror. So instead of calling myself really nasty names, I would say things like, you were beautiful. You were worthy. You were so loved. It didn't matter if I believed it or not. And trust me, in the beginning, I did not believe a word I said. But what mattered is that I said it. After a while, I started to lighten up on myself. I started to like myself. And eventually, I could even come to the point where I could say I love myself. To be clear, I'm nowhere near being perfect at it. I still have my moments and maybe even days where I would beat myself up to a pulp, but I'm so much better than I used to be. Since I've changed my beliefs and outlook on life, I found that I'm so much happier and feel so much more at peace. Of course, bad things still happen to me, and they happen to me often. The truth is, bad things happen to all of us, and we can only do the best we can with what we know at the time to get through it. Today, instead of asking, why are all these bad things always happening to me? My new attitude now is to just say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful for all the good that is happening to me. contest chair.
Thank you, Karen.
Madam Contest Master, we have all the ballots, and Zoom Master can move us into a breakout room.
Thank you, Chief Judge. Everyone can turn your webcams back on. And if you can and Zoom Master can spotlight all the contestants, we will begin the interviews. Can you put everybody in the spotlight?
I can.
Two more.
Carlos, can you?
One more. Mary.
Oh, she's so short I couldn't see her.
Okay. Thank you all tonight. You have done a fabulous job, and I have to say I'm thankful I am not a judge. Let's begin our interviews. Karen, writing, speaking, TV, movies, reading, nature, animals, traveling. Tell us about your hobbies with nature.
That is a very good question. During the pandemic, I've pretty much stayed at home. We used to live in the country when I lived up on the mountain, and we had critters all over the place. I actually called that place my paradise because it was so beautiful and I always felt so much at peace. But as I said in my speech, I'm also my 91-year-old dad's caretaker, and I can't leave him for very long periods of time. He broke his hip a couple of years ago, so he can still be a fall risk. So I still just try and stay close enough home. And then if I get that phone call, I can get home to him quickly. But just being outside, sitting on the porch and listening to the birds and the lawnmowers. Oh, wait, cut that one out. Birds and the leaves and everything else, and the leaf blowers, you know, can still be calming when you can get those moments in between all the lawn equipment.
Sounds like you get some earthing in there. Donald. Guitar and ukulele. What is your favorite song to play on the ukulele? You're on mute. Zoom Master, please.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Dory. Well, first of all, everybody's seen the tie, right? Okay. There, that's better. Favorite song? That's a tough one because I used to play guitar a lot, and the arthritis has kind of taken my hands. So the ukulele is sort of a fallback. I guess the last few months, my favorite has been picking out Amazing Grace on the ukulele. It's a fairly simple tune, but I got some satisfaction out of finding a chord structure that was a little different from the usual. Now,
Thank you. Carlos. Your interests and hobbies are speaking and winning. And what inspires you is winning and speaking. So what's the best thing about winning?
The best thing about winning is, like I said at the speech, in other words, it's the effect of the winning. Because if you look at it from just an egotistical standpoint, then you put yourself as a victim of losing. Like, yeah, I lost, oh no, I'm depressed, and my world's gonna end, and all that stuff. But when you figure out, or you look at winning more as what that victory can do for your community, whether it's a huge community or a small community, which is your family, then it's more satisfying. it's much more satisfying.
I totally agree. Thank you, Carlos. Mary, human resilience is what inspires you. Can you give us an example of something that's happened within the last year?
Oh, wow. In the last year, yeah. It's interesting because I feel like I keep recreating this theme in my life. And when I spoke one time, as a result of a conference I'd been to, they told us to write our life story in 6 words or less. And mine was got knocked down, kept getting up. And although nowadays when I get knocked down, it's not quite as hard, but I did have a significant issue in job change where someone had gone and basically, and I don't want to sound like a victim because I'm certainly not a victim, but this person went and said some things about me that I was going to have to now prove were not true. And I just got numbers this week. I have quadrupled the production that this other party who said I wasn't the person for the job said about me. So literally, it's resilience at its best. I took a situation that I thought I wasn't going to be able to recover from. And it wasn't one of those, it was, wow, the numbers speak for themselves. I don't have to say or do anything else. And that person will never know because that person is gone. But I have the satisfaction of knowing that I was able to do way more than the person who thought I couldn't do it could do.
Awesome. Thank you. Luann, your interest in hobbies. You have a goal to ride the bicycle in all 50 states. 21 down and 29 to go. What's the next one you're going to and when?
The next one I'm going to will probably be, believe it or not, Georgia. I have all the states in the area except for Georgia. And I'm hopeful that that will happen within the next month or so. I am super excited about it because every time I knock off a state, I know that I'm one step closer to the goal. And I am really looking forward to riding in the Four Corners area. I'm hoping to pick up 4 states in one ride, which would be a lot of fun. I've ridden across the state line before and gotten 2 in one ride. It's a fun thing to do. It's active, it's outdoors, and it's, I think, a little bit of a unique goal. And I really enjoy it. I love riding my bicycle, always have, hope I always will.
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds interesting and fun. I would definitely like to do the 50 states as well. Karen, seeing the best of humanity and people doing acts of kindness in the last month, what was one of your favorite acts of kindness that you've seen?
That's a hard question to answer because on Facebook, I see them all the time. I always look for the stories that are heartwarming. I always say it warms my heart so much that they made my eyes sweat. And it's just people going out of their way to help other people. And especially during this pandemic, when so many people have just gotten so divided, it's just so wonderful to see people go out of their way just to be kind to other people. And you see it at the gas stations where somebody runs out of gas, or in the grocery store where somebody didn't have enough money, and people will stand there, and it doesn't matter race, color, religion, anything, and they will actually pay the bills for those people. So it's just any random act of kindness, taking a cart back to the store, anything just warms my heart.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Or the pay behind you. Donald, Guild Wars, what are those?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Your Guild Wars?
Oh, Guild Wars too. Yeah, that's for people who play massively multiplayer online role-playing games. Guild Wars 2 is one of those. I started playing it when I was needing to take care of my daughter. I have a severely disabled daughter as well as the son that we lost. And I need to stay awake to take care of her, but I couldn't focus on anything really in any depth. So I found that playing an MMORPG, which some people say is, let's see, many men online role-playing girls. Yeah, it's just something to give some focus so that I can stay awake, but have some fun in the process.
Oh, thank you. I had no clue what that was. Carlos.
Yes.
What inspires you other than winning and speaking?
Well, in traditional Toastmaster fashion, I'm going to grab your question and totally ignore it, answer it differently. And it has to do with the fact that I've put into my paperwork winning and speaking and all that jazz. And coincidental, it is the title of my speech. And why do I throw that in there? And that is because all of these that are competing, and all my fellow contestants, a lot of times when you compete, you fill out the same paperwork over and over again. And you either can put the same answers or you can put totally different answers. And it kind of gets tiring. What answers did I put? And I started thinking, well, wait a minute, I should answer these questions based on my speech. Why? Because these speeches that we create and we practice and we go, each contest and all that stuff, we're basically marketing our speech. Hey, check it out. Kind of like a Lexus dealership. You go to a Lexus dealership and everything is about Lexus. Everything is about Lexus. And if they offer you an umbrella, they're not going to give you a Volvo umbrella. They're going to give you a Lexus umbrella. And so I'm thinking, hey, I come in here and I got to talk my speech, which is speaking to win. And so, of course, all my answers are relating to speaking and winning. And therefore, that is why I put speaking and winning and speaking. I hope that answered, well, obviously that didn't answer your question, but that is a perfect answer to another question.
And it makes me want to go buy a Lexus. Thank you. Mary Dunn. I think I know some of these answers, but singing. What is the most fun you have had singing?
Oh, there are so many times, and you're right, you do know some of them. I really think some of the most fun times I've had singing were when Dory was singing with me and a couple of other friends of ours. And I swear, I think the most fun was actually rehearsals. I can remember rehearsing at my apartment a few years ago, and the four of us laughing so hard. And we actually, we did the Cup song at, I forgot which conference it was. It's been a couple years. And I believe, Dory, didn't we win second place in the talent contest? So we did the Cup song. And we have somewhere a series of videos from when we began practicing the song together till we actually performed it. I think it was a different performance, though, somewhere else. And I would give my eye teeth to see those performances. But we laughed so hard. We had so much fun. And then the pandemic came along and we weren't able to do that anymore. So we need to get back to that. Yeah, we do need to see those videos.
I have them. And the funny thing was, there was only 2 bathrooms and 4 women's laughing. Luann.
Truth.
Luann, you enjoy cooking and sewing and other crafts. What crafts do you like to do? What type of crafts?
I just like anything that you start with something and you make something else out of it. I learned to crochet a few years ago after wishing that I could for probably most of my life. And it has been such a source of joy for me. I remember when I first started taking lessons, though, the lady that owned the yarn shop where I was taking lessons said, "You will love to crochet. It's so relaxing." and my shoulders were like this, and I was focused and I couldn't figure it out. And I thought, this is not relaxing. She must be crazy. But then all of a sudden, after practicing, I got the hang of it, and I find it very relaxing. So she was right in the long run, but it took a little getting there.
Thank you. It looks like we still have a little bit more time. So I'm just going to ask some really quick questions. Luann, what was the last thing that you crocheted?
The last thing I crocheted was it was supposed to be a lap throw as a housewarming gift for a friend of mine. And I did not correctly resize the pattern, and it turned out being big enough to cover a queen size bed.
Always best to have blankets and stuff that are bigger. Clothes even sometimes. Mary, what are you writing at the moment? And why aren't you writing at the moment? If you're not.
No, I actually have been doing some writing. And I've heard so many people talk about books. I am actually motivated now to go and edit a book that's been sitting on my laptop for I don't know how long. I had someone say, "Oh, you finally got this thing written," and I said, "Well, I mean, it took me 15 years to get ready to write it, and it literally took me 1 month to get it all written, but it's not edited." So I have not started that process yet, and that is the next on my list, is to start the editing process on that book.
Thank you. I understand that. Carlos, when is your next speaking engagement, and can we all get an invitation?
Next speaking engagement. That's a good question. What day is today? Today's Saturday. Well, I guess you define speaking engagement, because I have several radio programs for dealing with work. And then, of course, I speak to different people at work. I even, on occasion, speak to my wife, who also works with me and lives with me. Sometimes I speak to my dog. Rarely does she speak back. So when is my next speaking engagement? Probably in the next 10-15 minutes, when my wife is probably angry at me for something and I have to say, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Carlos. Oh, goodness. Comedians. Donald, food. You've got food. Here is one of your interests and hobbies. What
Can't
food
you
are
tell?
you interested in? What is your favorite food?
Oh my goodness. You mean like today?
All time. All time.
I get the one that is always dependable is peanut butter. When I was in high school, I couldn't stand the cafeteria, and I took every day from 7th grade through 12th grade a cheese sandwich and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm not sure I've ever really outgrown that. Kind of sad, isn't it?
Well, there are some restaurants that specialize with peanut butter.
Oh yeah, but it's hard for me to find a food that I'm not friends with.
Thank you. Karen, traveling. Where do you do a lot of traveling, and where will your next adventure take you?
I've been probably to just about every place in the United States and British Columbia, California, Las Vegas, Ohio, Indiana, Chicago, just about every state. But the one state I haven't been to that I really want to go to is Hawaii. That's my biggest dream. So I am tax deductible, and I am taking donations if anyone wants to, help me on that trip there. So
Thank you. Well, let's see. They are almost done. Dare I ask any more questions? I think so. Let's see. Who was that? And what?
You just did. You just
I
did
got-
dare to ask
ha, ha.
more questions.
Yes. Here, we should ask the Zoom master some questions. Let's see. Karen?
I think that's a great idea. We should ask the Zoom master some questions.
Audience,
Post front face,
okay.
no.
that's a good idea, Catherine. I will let, since you put that in the chat, choose one of the speakers to ask them a question, Catherine.
So we've got 64 topics masters out there, right?
Catherine put the question in there. She said, maybe you could ask the audience for questions to ask our.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
It's a brilliant question. And what could possibly go wrong?
I know, I will choose just somebody. Okay. Donald, what is your favorite video game?
Guild Wars 2. What else?
There
I
we
used to
go.
play World of Warcraft, but it just got to be too expensive. Guild Wars 2, you buy it one time, you're done with it.
All right, it looks like they are coming back. Thank you for that question, Catherine. Are the judges, I mean, is the chief judge and ballot counters back?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they're no
All
longer in the
right.
breakout room.
They stayed a little longer in the breakout room.
No, they're no longer in the breakout room.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
ready.
thank you. With that, I would like to thank everyone today for their hard work and for their participation. And now for the results.
Who's got a drum roll?
Yes, drum roll and take me off spotlight. Our third place winner for the International Speech Contest, Luann Clark. Our second place winner, who will continue on if first place cannot, is Carlos Calderon. And our first place winner, who will be going on to the regional, and we wish the best of luck, Donald King. Thank you everyone for being here today. And I will hand this contest, this day, back over to Curtis and John. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dory. Congratulations to all of our winners.